Huh. So far away, Lucas. Loki.
Loki, indeed. The God of Mischief.
Yeah. Also, the TV show is not out yet when we're recording this, so no spoilers in the comments. Don't be a prick. So far away, Lucas, would you like to once again confirm for the audience at home, we're recording this before Loki, the TV show, has started airing on Disney+. We're just recording this in anticipation of it going live and people being interested in the character.
Yeah, we've done this for the last few Marvel shows, and we always have been recording beforehand, but it takes a while for these to get edited, so yeah.
So I'm not sure which of the videos it was, but we got accused of leaking spoilers for one of the Disney shows in the Wiki weekend because we described something the character did, and it ended up happening in the show. I was like, well, no, it's just the writers took inspiration from the original comics, not we spoiled it, but we apologise if there are any spoilers in here, I guess. We're recording this before the show was aired. With that out of the way, Lucas, thoughts on the character of Loki?
Well, I, like most people, probably don't know too much about Loki from the comics, and my only experience is really just MCU Loki, but obviously that character is really fucking good and one of the best in the MCU.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston is so good in that role. And the fact that people are probably screaming in the comments alongside spoilers for Loki, the TV show, is that Tom Hiddleston originally auditioned to play Thor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because according to him, when the casting call went out for Thor, all they said was, if you're blonde and over 6 feet tall. And there's a great quote from Tom Hiddleston where they ask him, so you, a little bit salty about not playing Thor and headlining these giant movies? And Tom Hiddleston went, not particularly, no. And every time I think I'm a little bit jealous of Chris Hemsworth, I glance over and see them force feeding him another chicken to get him bulky enough to play Thor. And just realise, you know what, maybe it's not too bad playing Loki.
I mean, it's really not, because he's, created a really beloved version of the character to the point where they've given him his own TV show now.
And without further ado, the wiki we're referring today, which is on Loki LaFaison. And Lucas, I'm just glancing at this wiki article, a link to which you can find below, folks at home, and already we have got some fucking bad names.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, Loki LaFaison, 616, name Loki LaFaison, aliases, so pads and pencils at the ready, the God of Mischief, the God of Evil, the Prince of Evil, the Prince of Lies, the Son of Secrets, the Maker of Mischief, the Sly One, the Lord of all Liars, the Liesmith, Sly God, Shape Changer, Wizard of Lies, Loki Trickskin, Cao Zung, Lauren Oysam, the Trickster of Asgard, Gem Keeper, Willie Lawson, Typhoon, Father Williams, Loki the Deceiver. And then finally, during the 1940s and 50s, he briefly called himself Satan on occasion.
God, I do just like the one, though, the Son of Secrets.
And I just, like I said, the MCU version of Loki is now just that is my version of Loki. You could tell that Tom Hiddleston has so much fun in that role.
Yeah, for sure.
He loves being Loki so fucking much. And there is an amazing behind-the-scenes story for, is it number 3, where he goes back and you've got Odin, who's like Loki in disguise?
Yes, yeah.
There's a great behind-the-scenes story about Anthony Hopkins recording that scene because he wasn't contracted to appear in Thor Ragnarok, but was convinced to appear in it. He's like, well, it's the final appearance of my character. I want the fans of the character to see that character get a good send-off. And the story goes that when he sat in on a line reading and asked them, okay, so what is my character doing in this scene? They told him, well, in this scene, it's you, but it's you being played by Tom Hiddleston Loki. And he went, say no more, and came in the next day wearing blue eyeshadow. And that's why in that scene, just Odin's wearing eyeshadow, because that's what Anthony Hopkins thought Loki would wear when he was disguised as Odin.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, and that line is always like, oh shit. And we'll move swiftly on to powers and abilities. And we have here Loki's power grid. People don't know it's like a rating of 1 to 7. 1 being an average human, 7 being nigh godlike in that regard. And for Loki, everything is around a 5 or a 6, with the exception of speed, which is a 3 or a 7, depending on whether or not he has a teleporter. Strength, which is a 4 or a 5, based on his current form. And his energy projection, which is a 1 or a 6, again, based on the form that he takes.
That's a big-ass difference between a 1 and a 6.
Well, to be fair, he's probably has some kind of item, I guess, the Tesseract or something like that. But powers, despite being a frost giant, Loki possesses Asgardian attributes. He says that these include, but are not limited to, superhuman strength. Loki, without the aid of anything through his own biology, possesses superhuman strength that is substantially superior to that of an average Asgardian. He possesses sufficient physical strength to lift up to 50 tons. It is possible, however, through mystical enchantment, he can increase his strength on a temporary basis. Without aid, he once even managed to destroy a large building with a single punch. And that's the thing, you don't often think of Loki being that strong, but when he's taking a punch from Thor, just the fact he's able to stand there as Thor punches him suggests that he's pretty goddamn strong.
Yeah, that is very true. I am curious how, just because he's adopted by Asgardians, he then gains Asgardian attributes, but I guess that's just comic books.
It's a comic book. Don't ask a question you don't want the answer to, because the answer will be very unsatisfying. Regenerative healing factor. Like all Asgardians, Loki, although he's inhumanly durable, at least by human standard, can still obtain injury. However, like Asgardians, his metabolism allows him to rapidly regenerate damaged tissue much faster and more extensively than any human being. However, through use of his sorcery, Loki's ability to heal himself is far above that of another Asgardian. His magical energy is so imbued into his body that he can reattach severed limbs and, while still a male, reattached his own head at least once. I'm not sure what that's got to do with him being a male, because I know sometimes he changes forms, like impersonating women and in one comic a horse, or maybe that's Norse mythology.
Well, we all know that females can reattach their own heads, and it's not impressive.
No, yeah, that is an ability women have, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
So that's maybe I don't know why it clarifies that. Maybe as when he's pretending to be a woman, he's so imbued with magical energies to disguise himself, he can't reattach his head. I don't know.
I'm really confused about that, but well.
Sorcery. So here we go. Loki has extensive training in sorcery and the ability to generate and control a great quantity of mystical energies for a variety of purposes. His magical abilities are equal to Karnilla, the most skilled sorceress in the Asgardian dimension. He has once used his magic to turn the Invisible Woman's psionic shields against herself, has been able to break free of celestial technology in possession of Apocalypse. Loki has also imbued himself with magical abilities that would allow him to withstand injuries that will prove fatal to any other Asgardian, such as being beheaded by Balder. He has also been shown to be immune to the Controller's control disc. That sucks. And you call the controller, and you've got to think on a control disc, and it doesn't work on Loki. Loki's power has been said by the Silver Surfer during their early encounters to be sufficient to, and I quote, decimate a planet.
Ooh.
And when the Silver Surfer is giving you some props, you take those props, because the Silver Surfer fucking knows.
Well, the Silver Surfer especially knows how to decimate a planet, that's for sure.
No, it's kind of like his literal job description to just kick the shit out of it. I also like the idea that in one comic he met Rogue and Rogue's abilities didn't work.
I do like that, but I do specifically enjoy the fact that it's like, the controller controls everybody, but Loki's like, no, because I'm the god of fucking mischief. You can't control me.
Like, how do you warp someone's mind whose literal purpose is the metaphysical manifestation of trickery? Fuck you. Other abilities that Loki possesses via his magic include telekinesis. Being a telekinetic, Loki can influence the movement of objects and people with his mind. As such, this power proves to be devastating and chaotic in nature. And mystical force fields, illusion casting, which is my favourite one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love that line where, is it the third time he does it to Thor, where he tackles him and falls through something? He goes, will you ever not fall for that?
Yeah.
It's so good. Thor keeps falling for it.
And that's the thing, isn't it, of obviously the reason that he's able to take over Asgard from the second to third movie is just, again, he just lets himself die, but he's just casting an illusion, and Thor believes it yet again, like the fucking dumbass he is.
And it says here that his illusions can fool entire cities and entities as powerful as Surtur, the guy who destroys all of Asgard in the third movie.
But maybe he doesn't destroy Asgard, maybe he destroys an illusion of Asgard, Karl.
I love as well his final moments, in Infinity War, where he tries to do the same trick on Thanos and it doesn't work on him.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I respect Loki for using the same trick 4 times. Anyway, shape-shifting. Like a number of gods and goddesses, Loki possesses highly developed shape-shifting capabilities. He is able to adapt almost any form imaginable, whether it be animals, other humanoid beings, or even inanimate objects. That's a fun one. How much do you think he trolls people doing that?
Oh, so much.
So fucking... It's like that story from Thor, isn't it, where Loki turned into a snake?
Yeah.
Which, folks at home, yes, it was ad-libbed, because you can tell, because it doesn't sound like anything Thor would ordinarily say. It was just Chris Hemsworth ad-libbing and everyone thought it was hilarious. The thought has been raised that his current form is merely a shape Loki has decided to remain in. Despite this well-known ability of Loki's, he has commented to himself as he struggled to escape from Dormammu's mystic cage that it is his most soul-draining power, apparently meaning that he's more taxing than his other magical abilities. He has become such animals as a snake, an eagle, a mouse, and a bee, gaining the basic natural abilities inherent in each form. So Loki can, in Marvel canon, turn into a bee and do that thing where he flies really close to your ear. That is a fucking power of a trickster god right there. That is what a trickster god will do. Just turn into a bee and fly into Iron Man's suit. Do it.
That's the ultimate mischief right there.
It is. Just becoming a bee and flying around the inside of like someone's helmet.
But then turning into an elephant while you're inside there.
It says here, just Beast Boy it. While he can take on the likeness of another god, giant, or human, he will not necessarily gain the special physical or mental powers of the being he imitates. Loki can transform external objects into other forms and substances via magic. For instance, he has turned clouds into dragons and once turned cars into ice cream.
I want that power.
Where was that in the MCU? Do you know that bit where he's like attacking Germany and he blows up? He should have turned everyone's car into ice cream.
Or just turn the helicopter that the Avengers have into fucking just a giant waffle.
That's basically the reality stone right there.
Yeah.
Other mystical abilities. Loki can also bring inanimate objects to life and mystically imbue objects or beings with specific but temporary powers and bestow superhuman attributes on living beings or inanimate objects. For example, Loki has augmented the might of human criminals. These magical effects remain only for as long as he maintains the spell that created them. Loki also once cursed Deadpool with an indestructible Tom Cruise's face, which proves to be powerful enough to withstand being run over by a train and direct contact with a nuclear rod. So he once gave Deadpool Tom Cruise's face, made it indestructible, and Deadpool tried to get rid of it by putting his head under a train.
Okay.
Comic books, folks. Comic books.
I mean, yeah, when you put Loki and Deadpool together in a comic, shit's gonna go down.
That is some fucking shenanigans, isn't it? So, abilities, genius, intelligence. Loki has a genius-level intellect and possesses a great deal of knowledge of the mystic arts. He's also extremely cunning and skilled and an expert battle strategist, and a highly skilled and charismatic manipulator / leader, which is evident by the ease of which Loki repeatedly succeeded to regain the trust of his fellow Asgardians, despite, and I quote, his many crimes. That's the one he's saying. Like, he's the god of lies and mischief, and he's like, "Look, guys, my bad. I didn't mean it." It's like, I guess we better forgive him. He's very clearly sorry. Like, he's only done it 5 times before, but I guess we can forgive him after this one.
Well, it's that great line in Avengers, isn't it? Of like, "Oh, he's your brother." It's like, well, he's adopted.
Yeah, like I'm gonna go to bat for him, but not that hard. Again, that was a ad-lib line from Chris Hemsworth, because you know what? Chris Hemsworth is a funny dude. And then we have here weaknesses, magic limitations. His powers are believed to be slightly weaker on Midgard than on Asgard, as his birth was not of Gaia, and even Odin's magic was seen to wane on Earth. Also, while apparently possessing some extrasensory abilities, Loki cannot directly read the minds of other beings, nor can he control their actions. He can only influence them, which I like as a thing. It's like, he can't control your mind. He can only influence what you see, think, and do. That to me is way more interesting than if he just like took over your body.
Yeah.
And that's something I kind of wish was in the MCU more. Because he just has the staff that just controls people and makes them do what you want.
Yeah, and that's more like not his powers specifically. It's part of like the Mind Stone being there as well.
And I get it, it's a movie contrivance, but I think it'd be more interesting if nobody was actually being properly controlled by him, just influenced to like act against their own best interest because Loki could convince them to.
Yeah, and that's why Loki's actually a more interesting character outside of the Avengers movie, just because he's reliant less on the power of the Mind Stone.
No, he's got to rely on his own, guile and slyness. And we have here superiority, inferiority complex. Loki's ambition has proven to be his greatest flaw, as well as his passionate hatred of Thor, lust for power, and his tendency to alienate himself through his ignoble actions, which greatly impedes his ability to bring his well-laid plans to fruition. Also, as noted by Apocalypse, Loki has poor understanding of human nature, which leads him to severely underestimate his mortal/earthly opponents, resulting in many humiliating defeats. Smash cut to puny fucking god.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that.
Is that the hypest moment in that film?
It's got to be.
Like, the idea, like, there's just, like, it's so perfect, like, from a comedic timing standpoint. Because
I was, like, watching Avengers Day 1 when it first came out, and the moment when, you know, it has the circle pan of all of the Avengers standing together.
Yeah.
Obviously, people got hype in the cinema, but people got more hype for the puny god moment.
It's because he doesn't just, like, hit him once. It's like he swings him around, and then it waits a second for the comedic time, and then he does it again, just for the insult. And you just have that zooming on his face, where it's like, I did not expect this green giant man to fucking do that. And then Lucas, we'd like to end on just a little bit of trivia.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So we say here that so. In his first Silver Age appearance in Journey into Mystery, it was said that Loki's powers don't work in water, but this was never mentioned again.
Okay. Sure.
Oh, that's like the Green Lantern thing, isn't it? Where his powers don't work on wood, and then later comics really try and stray away from that. It's like, right. Yeah, this is like a thing in, like, you know, the golden age of comics when, like, you know, Superman had super ventriloquism, but technically it's still canon and we don't like talking about it. So, though Loki is present as one of the most powerful sorcerers of the Marvel Universe, in original myths, Loki's only consistent power was that of shapeshifting. And even then, it may not be an innate skill, since some myths explicitly tells of Loki using an animal skin to shapeshift. So in some of those original myths, Loki just pretends to be like a wolf. He's just a furry.
Oh, he just got a lot of snake skin and put it over himself like, I'm a snake.
I'm a snake, Thor. You can't get me. I'm a snake. Among the many differences between Marvel's interpretation of Loki and the one from Norse myth, Norse mythology's Loki wasn't particularly malevolent. His father, Tharboti, and his mother, Lofe, and he wasn't the brother of Thor, but the blood brother of Odin. So essentially, yeah, who'd have thought it, Lucas? What a great bit of trivia. The Marvel Comics version of Loki, the one who, like, fights Captain America on the reg, is not a realistic interpretation of Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it, eh? Who'd have thunk it?